The Jay Bird Watching Podcast, the official podcast of jaysjournal.com and fansided.com, where we discuss all things Toronto Blue Jays baseball. We'll talk about news, rumors, and game recaps. So whether you're a diehard fan or just getting started with the team, this is the podcast for you. Here's your host, Craig Borden, with co-hosts Jason Lyons and me, Ken Alfred. You're listening to the Jay Bird Watching Podcast.
Why, hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome back to another week of Jay Bird Watching. It's been an awesome week for Blue Jays fans, and tonight we finally have the full band back together as Ken Alfred joins Jason Lyons and myself, Craig Borden. Fellas, how are we feeling?
Pretty red right now, pretty red. But I'm glad to be back, actually. Been a couple of weeks, and eager to get back on here. So thanks for having me back, guys.
But to that point, at least you had a day where you were supposed to be recording, but at least you were in a better place. You were in the actual Rogers Center. So,
yes, I was.
How was your visit?
It was really good, but I guess that mental aspect of me, like I'm only focused on the game, so I didn't even bother going around to take a look at the new all the bells and whistles we've been talking about for the last few weeks. So I could see it.
So Ken was in the neighborhood, but he didn't mingle in the neighborhood.
Pretty much.
So good stuff. But glad to hear that you enjoyed being at the game. And correct me if I'm wrong, that night you were there, they actually won. We're correct?
Yes. And Jason, do you remember when I first met you? I think one of the first things you said was, I can't remember what game it was, but the person was getting close to a no-hitter, and I happened to blurt out the word no-hitter, right? And you said you never say it. So this time I didn't say anything about no-hitter, but I was like, wow, Gossman's doing really good. I didn't say no hitter. I'm like,
it still jinxed it.
That very next game, that solo shot.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
That's right. No, it's all superstition. Jason.
Well, left coast I'm holding it down over here. We finally have weather that sort of is reminiscent of a season that isn't monsoon season. So baseball is being played. The sound of lawnmowers is everywhere, as it's only been sunny for about 24 hours. So people are cutting their grass like all the way up to like 8 p.m. And then again, right at 6 a.m, you hear it going again. Amazing cup. Another amazing week in Blue Jays baseball. I mean, just we have treasure troves of things, positive things to talk about, which is, you can't really ask for too much more when you're doing a cast about a certain team. There's lots that are going different directions, and some surprising ones. But overall, what a week for the Jays! Holy monkey!
Yeah. So why don't we dive right into that fun, fellas, as we talk about what was the Rumble in the Bronx. And so the Blue Jays took the action that was on a little bit of a downcline leaving Houston, and were able to run into the series against the New York Yankees, and where they were able to take 2 out of 3, so a series win. So if you're keeping track, and that's a good thing. Win series usually means playoff appearances eventually, and we have only lost 1 series to this point, and they were able to take it to a rival that is literally on top of us right now with the standings, and it's been back and forth. And yes, I'm already scoreboard watching. So, but to that point, every one of these games was very nitty-gritty for a very long period of each game, and certain tipping points on each game. Very competitive series. The Blue Jays do end up winning 6-1. They lost 2-3, and then they won 5-1 on the Sunday. So that turns into a very good series for the Toronto Blue Jays. Ken, you're finally back. How did you appear to like that series? What stood out to you?
Well, they like to take us on a roller coaster of emotions, and not even during the playoffs. So it was very nice to see the Jays, take 2 out of 3 from the Yankees. I was really bummed out on that when we did lose to the Yankees. I mean, that's the one where it was like nothing until like the 8th inning or something like that. So it's basically like a pitching duel for the most part.
And then that was the one Danny Jansen ties everything back up with a 2-run home run.
Yep, absolutely. And then of course 5-1. I think we were hitting almost all home runs on that last game, the Yankees. So we were very, very happy about that.
So that was Vladdy 2-run home run night and everything. So that was a very, very, very fun night. Dalton Barr showed him back to back. Very fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think
that we went with the Yankees series.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the great takeaways from the Yankee series for sure, even a sprinkling of the Houston series and Chicago as well. We'll talk about that, but really starting to see the starting five fall into their own. They're starting to pitch to their strengths. I mean, how many ground balls? I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, if they're not out of the yard, they're a ground ball. And I mean, it's so important when you have good defense and a good infield, to get those ground balls and get those outs. I mean, I thought, standouts for me, nice to see Jansen back. Nice to see him hit a couple. Nice to see him. His defense behind the plate right now is out of this world. I don't know if I've ever seen a catcher. I mean, I think you'd have to go back to maybe Punch Rodriguez when he was just getting going. The athleticism, he made a block. I mean, I don't want to jump forwards into the White Sox series, but he made a block last night that I'll bet you 1% of the catchers that are professional bat catchers could make, and he made it look easy. He is flowing right now. And it's nice to see some of the other guys, like you see a Kiermaier or a Varsho strike out, and they're at least fouling that ball out. They're at least making the pitcher go 6, 7, 8, 10 pitches into that at bat. And so, I mean, they're crucial at bats, and the Jays are grinding right now. Like, anything you put in front of them, they're just a buzzsaw. If they're going to lose a game, they're going to make you work to get every single ounce of it. Even if, at the start of the year, Manoah and Bassett, they weren't throwing gems. Now they're throwing gems. Now they're throwing really, really good games, and it allows a pitcher like Kikuchi to go to a different pitch when he hasn't used very much, but the one that's been successful for him. And same for Gausman. Gausman was able to he looked so relaxed, and he's able to throw the ball where he wants to. He's getting calls where he wants them, and I feel like the main part of that Yankees series was, I mean, Kikuchi was great. Gausman was very good. And then the offense was really strong and flowed right into the series against the White Sox.
Yeah, and I think the key word there is flowed, because they were hitting on all cylinders except for as Ken mentioned, the Saturday game through first 8 innings. The offense was flat, but they were doing everything they needed to defensively and pitching wise for that game, and they really set the tone for, I think, where they currently are, being able to take down the Chicago White Sox. But we'll talk about that in a moment. But the New York Yankees, guys, I don't know what you think about them after this weekend, but I don't want to say I'm not scared of them as much. Eventually get Luis Severino back and some of their guys that are hurt that we didn't get to see in this series. Mind you, Giancarlo Stanton is not in that lineup this past weekend. So the next time we play the Yankees, which I believe is in a few weeks, it's mid-May. We play in the week the 15th. So that week of the 15th, this might look like a very different Yankees team. But to that point, we were able to take them to school in a few key innings, 2 of those games, and then we hung with them tight the whole game, even when we took a loss. Yeah. How are you feeling about the Yankees?
I think that you hit the nail on the head there. The Yankees are hurt right now. They're a bit of a wounded duck. The one thing with the Yankees, because their payroll is so massive, they're able to have backup players in that are incredible. Like you take a player out and you put a very good player in. I still feel like the Yankees play with no heart. There's no heart in that stadium. There's no heart on that team, and they're now calling Aaron Judge the captain.
That's because they got a giant contract.
Slightly original. They were talking about the fact that he paid for a bunch of a rookie a couple of his suits. Like, who cares? There's nothing to them. They have no character. They are as blah as the uniform are. They are just dead fish. And when it comes to baseball, you have to be having some level of fun. if you're not having some level of fun, and I mean, Aaron Judge hits a home run, and no one's even excited. They walk past. It's just like they've all shown up at their job at the accounting firm, and they know it's month end. Like it's a joke. And when it comes to the end of the season, even if they do well, they've got no guts and no heart. They won't make it through a round of the playoffs. And I mean, talent can only carry you so far. And they're showing right now, even when they're thin, their talent isn't that great. You know, for the Jays to come in and really, you know, beat them soundly twice and then take them right to the rail on the third game, that probably really opened up some eyes in Yankee Stadium. And I love the fact that they did that big tribute to Don Mattingly, and then they go in and smash the crap out of them twice. So, I mean,
mostly because of his doing too, by the way.
Around.
Yeah. You know, that wasn't really much of a factor I found during the series, right? Because I think every time I was watching, he was always striking out or anything. I think he only had he wasn't like the presence that I thought I was supposed to be seeing from him. Right? For someone who's making what is it? How much is he making per year?
Oh,
a lot.
Hundreds of, yeah. So
you think you have more of an impact, at least when you're playing against a competitor, right? So I didn't see that much from Judge, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I don't know.
I think he's just off to a slow start because he did come out the gate and hit and he's in the point where I think he's adjusting again, and good players like him will find a way. So I wonder which Aaron Judge shows up in the Rogers Center mid-May.
Well, he just got hurt too. I don't know if that was today that Judge got hurt, or was it yesterday sliding into third.
I did read about that. Now you mentioned that, I forgot.
That's a 6'9" guy scorpion himself into third base. That's a 6.5 feet of fold over on yourself.
That's not a good time.
Here, how about this? They could scrap the captain, and they could call him the Scorpion King after that slide.
There you go. Zing. So, but to that point, like I said, I think that the Blue Jays showed that they are a different team this year in that series, and I think that's exactly what they needed to do, especially coming into the Bronx that early in the year. I'm going to just point this piece out to you guys, and you can either chime in or tell me I'm crazy. 2015, the Blue.
Got to finish that, Craig. You're kind of chopping in and out.
Hold on. He's going max headroom on us. Hopefully everybody can still hear us.
Yeah, so it's still recording in the background. But Miguel Castro in that series in 2015 was the setup guy randomly, and Roberto Osuna ends up taking this save in that early for Bronx. That was the last time I remember us this early in the season taking a giant just steal early in the season.
It's huge. It's a big one. Like you said, that series is coming up against the Yankees in May. That's going to be in their heads deep. They don't get over things easily. Like, they're going to beat up on the Red Sox this week, and they'll be all happy-go-lucky. And then they're going to come up against another good team, and they're probably going to struggle. And I mean, as long as the Yankees keep struggling, it makes the AL East very, very, very interesting. With Tampa coming out the way that they did, no one expected that. But Tampa's now coming down to earth a little bit, and the Jays' trajectory seems to be the one that is going the fastest, the highest, because the Yankees are going to run out of runway here. They have an easy schedule. They have some easy series coming up, but they have some very difficult ones as well, like ones where I'd be surprised if they get one game out of them. And so, like you said, right now is the time to make hay. It's the time to get those wins and win two in the Bronx. Huge.
Yeah. So, Ken, do you think that they're going to have a little trouble when they come to the Rogers Center after your visit and how loud it was during your visit? Do you think they're going to have a little bit of, not only are they going to be doing these things that we were just dealing with, the Yankees coming into Toronto for that series, this is a fully rejuvenated fan base, I feel like, in the early watching of these games on TV, especially home games. The fact that there was 35,000 people for a day game today, that's a lot of damn people for a day game.
A lot of people called in sick today, I have a feeling. But like what you're saying is that the fan base for Toronto is really, really strong. So it's almost now with the Yankees coming in May, and now that the bullpen is really the bullpen is really that close that literally the fans can almost reach out and touch them. Is only going to play more into our advantage right now, right? So I think that 11th player, 10th player, 11th player on the field for the Jays, the fans, is definitely a big impact. And the Yankees are definitely going to be tough. If they're not on their game, we're just going to smash them like we did this last series.
I do agree. I think that's going to be very interesting to that series. So let's move on to the White Sox series, which as of today, us recording, was a day game. And guess what it ends up being, boys? Get your brooms ready. The Blue Jays end up taking the series and sweeping the Chicago White Sox. So like I said, get those brooms ready. And
I'm really surprised at how bad the White Sox are. Like, really. They're not that bad of a team. They've got very talented players, and I understand they're a bit of a mismatch, bit of a mishmash of dudes, but I mean, they're bad, like really bad.
Yeah,
go ahead, Ken.
So much, and the fact that we swept them was like, oh wow! And today's score as well, my goodness, it's like they did 8-0. Can you believe that? I was like,
yeah.
And MVP for me, like I know we're gonna jump the gun here. We're gonna jump the gun for our picks for next week, though, Craig. I'm going with Kikuchi for next week. Just letting you know.
There you go. And that'd be a good point because you get a win today.
Yeah.
So in the midst of that whole thing, they scored 2 runs this whole series. 3 games. White Sox, 2 runs. We scored 19. Just saying. So you talk about the Blue Jays evening up their run differential from making up for some.
Oh, there he goes again. Max Headroom.
Yep. But looks like it was batting practice.
Yeah, exactly. Batting practice makes it too much easy. It's interesting to see where this pitching staff especially is evolved over the last few weeks. This is the 8th straight good quality start now that Kikuchi had this awesome start again today. He was making the Chicago White Sox hitters look foolish, like AAA, AA level foolish, swing and misses like crazy, very reachable stuff. It was very interesting to see him mix up the pitches the way he's been over the last couple of weeks. And to that point, guys, you have Kikuchi in the 5th spot doing what he's doing. You have a resurging Jose Barrios. You have Chris Bassett going in deep into games and against another team, they did really well. He no-hit somebody almost for how many 6 innings the other day. And then now you have Gausman and Manoah figuring it out.
This is going to get really funny.
He was everything he needed to be for that start in New York.
Craig, you're going to love the audio for this when you listen to this. You're going to be cutting in and out a little bit, but
I don't know why it's doing it. I don't get it.
It's hilarious.
I'm sorry.
You know what they call it in the business, buddy? They called it suspense. You're building suspense because you're just about to make a great point, and then
you're like, what is yeah, no. The pitching's been really good days, man. Like I'm just looking at Gausman is like I can't believe he's like striking almost 10 batters a game, if you could believe that. And I'm like, wow. And Kikuchi's not that tough either. And same with Manoah. It's like, wow, they're almost like 8-9 strikeouts a game almost. So it's like, wow.
And Barrios is coming around. I mean, he looked devastating yesterday. And I mean, that's a huge. You guys have to know that is such a big win for him. I mean, he lost in Houston, and I feel like he pitched a pretty good game in Houston. He had a couple misses that ended up going over out to where the train goes in Houston. But for the Jays for this part of the season, one of the major things is going to be those starting 5 getting 5 to 7 innings in if they can, and getting those wins. It's super important at this time of the year. And I mean, it's such a big deal to see them having success. It's massive.
Yeah.
I think I just figured out what was wrong with my internet.
Okay.
My laptop, because Windows is awesome, and this is stupid things that computers do, it kept going back and forth between the Ethernet connection on my computer and the Wi-Fi.
Oh, there you go.
So, anyway, maybe I can actually be allowed to talk because I do love to hear myself talk. It's just a thing. So, but
switching back
right away. That's awesome.
The pitching staff has been crazy lately. So perfect.
Absolutely. Did we hear any update on Chris Bassett? I heard he was injured, I believe. Any update on that?
They haven't said anything that was going to be, I'd say, mission critical. They haven't said he's going to miss a start or anything at this point. Okay. So, but to that point, go ahead.
I just read that Springer seems to be okay. So he got hit with a pitch today in the elbow. And he's one of those guys that my hope is he's going to play again. He'll play tomorrow or And he's really got to get going. He's off to a slow start. I feel like he's having a good, if you watch the footage, from the dugout and all the rest of it, I feel like he's having a good time. He's, defensively, he's been pretty solid. 212 isn't that bad of a, it's not like he's hitting 127, but can we talk about the elephant in the room, Danny Jansen? What in the blue blazes is going on there?
Usually isn't that phrase usually reserved for bad?
Wow,
guys on fire.
Guys on fire. On fire doesn't quite cover it. He's see it, hit it, and this is just like when he came back from his injury last year. It was just if you put anything, and it's not even just most guys, it's got to be sort of a dinner plate size pitch that they go after. Danny's is about a pizza box right now. If you throw it in that pizza box, he's gonna smash it. And how about going to Oppo? Was that his first Oppo hit in 7 years? He's never hit anything to
Might
Oppo.
be his career.
Yeah, maybe. But
so on that note, I'm just gonna let us go into this segment here of the who's up, who's down situation because you're already preaching on the Danny Jansen train. You're good. So I agree with you. Danny Jansen might be the hottest hitter. That's saying something in this lineup that is boasting Bo Bichette right now, who's also in fuego. Vladdy Jr., who's batting a mere .333 and had a double and a couple RBIs again today. Matt Chapman's batting 400 still, so on and so forth. And now you're talking about adding somebody like Danny Jansen at the bottom of this lineup. Good luck hiding from these hitters, American League pitchers. That's all I'm going to say.
And can we quickly talk about the Jays 5 through 9 as well? The bottom of their order could be the best bottom three in baseball in the last 5 or 6 years. It's unbelievable. You can't throw anything by these guys, and it doesn't matter who you put down there. If you put Kiermaier, Witt, and I don't know, or Biggio, they're all just smashing the baseball down there, getting on base and letting the guys up at the top cash in the runs. And you don't even need the guys at the top right now when your bottom's hitting like that.
Go ahead, Ken. You had something clearly on your mind.
No, honestly, the other players, the big guys we were talking about, everyone let's talk about Bichette, Guerrero, and I'll call it Bat Chapman. That's from what people I've been hearing now. So now it's but the fact that Merrifield is really starting to come along really great, and very happy that Jansen's starting to come back now because I know I'm looking at his sense. I'm like, holy crap, he's got 3 home runs already, and he's starting to hit the ball better. And what about Espinal today, man? I think what was he 3 for 4 or 4 for 5 or something like that, where he just came alive a bit today. So hopefully we're going to start to get. Hopefully some of those guys are going to start to step up their game a little bit more. But very happy so far. Hoping Kiermaier is just on a little mini slump. Hopefully we'll snap out of that soon as well. But
to that point, you mentioned Whit Merrifield in the midst of that, throwing everybody out there. Unfortunately, his 10-game hitting streak was snapped today, and it wasn't from lack of trying. I can tell you that he hit a couple that I thought were going to make it.
Yeah. He's
honestly, I feel like that's where George Springer might be dealing with it a little bit. If we talked about the who's down part, he's hitting the ball hard, especially like Houston Astros series.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right, 2 dudes. And that also comes with George is starting to get to be a player that when you come into town, the cheat sheet on the arm is pretty accurate. George isn't he sprays it a bit, but not a ton. And that's why you look at a guy like Vladdy. You don't have one of these for Vladdy. There is no thing. This doesn't exist for Vladdy. Vladdy's got a field in front of him, and he sees pieces of green and hits it there.
Yeah, he finds it. I think that was a perfect case of that today. You saw that one he literally hit right down the chalk of the first baseline.
Yeah, and it's the same with Bichette. You can watch Bichette. Bichette is hunting. There's very few baseball players in history that hunt. Bichette right now is walking up to the box. He's putting his back foot in. He's looking out there and he's like, "Oh, I see you're out of position. Here comes one." And he's hitting it there. Like, I mean, he's going up against, in the last series, not great pitching, but against the Yankees, great pitching and hitting the ball wherever the hell he feels like it. And it's amazing.
Yeah. I think the crazy thing about Bichette, especially, did you see the home run from him today?
No.
Oh my God, go back and watch the highlight because he had no right in hell hitting this out of the ballpark. And now, so the ball is not even a strike. This is like a Vlad Senior level almost of hitting a home run. It's outside, it's low. He flicks the bat at it. And it keeps going and going, and you expect it to be like, oh, it's going to go foul or it's going to hit the wall. It wasn't going to do both. So it hits the foul pole above the wall, home run.
I don't know, Craig. Do you get? You probably don't get the A&W commercials that we have in Canada. Ken, you might know what I'm talking about. There's an A&W commercial right now with the guy from A&W and Vladdy Senior and Vladdy Junior, and the guy from A&W is throwing him BP, and they're like bouncing before the plate, and he keeps apologizing, and Vladdy Senior's behind him, and after like the fourth one, Vlad like looks at him, he's like, "Come on," and Vlad Senior goes, "I just swung at that," and it's so funny.
I didn't see that one.
Vladdy starts laughing, and you can tell it's genuine that he's laughing at it. It's so good, but
that one was perfect. Why didn't you swing?
Yeah, exactly. Two hopped into the.
Oh man, Vlad Senior and it's because he played cricket. He was a bad ball hitter and he knew how to hit balls that bounced before the plate out of the damn ballpark. It was one of the craziest things in baseball history, let alone there's videos of it. I highly recommend people go find it. I'm very thankful that Vlad Jr. has figured out what the actual strike zone is compared to his father and can actually do that.
Yeah. Oh, is he frozen again? There he goes. Back?
Yeah.
Frozen.
Yeah.
Back.
I don't get it now. Now I'm lost. I'm going to blame StreamYard for the first time.
Maybe you should unplug your Ethernet cable.
Maybe I should do some things, but at that point, I'll wreck everything for
that show.
We only got 30 more minutes.
I love it. This is now my favorite thing. You know what? Like 2 months from now, when we're doing one of these, Kenny and I are going to text each other, and you're not going to know it. We're going to be like, ah.
Not fair. I'll just stop like Sasquatch getting caught. I've been caught on camera. Oh no, what do I do? So, but anyway, I just can't say enough good things for the offense on this team right now. And then the pitching has been that much stellar. Now, if you get the rest that you need for the bullpen to be able to take that next stretch, it only gets that much better. As you could see, they were overtaxed and they were feeling that burden of the starting pitching that much more in the future.
And I mean, the burden that it does remove, I think what we started to see was at Yankee Stadium. You started to see, again, the smiles come back, again, a little fun being had. And even in the game they lost, I mean, that was a really, really, really good game of baseball. I don't know if the viewers out there in podcast land were able to watch it. I was jumping back and forth as I was doing stuff and continuing to watch it. And it was must see TV. It was I was glued to it. Like I was literally like trying to keep myself being able to watch while doing stuff. And it's awesome to think that we're watching it that intently now. Just think about come end of the summer. I mean, you're gonna have to kitty bar the door and not let it, just get beer delivered to the house and chicken wings and see how long you can last.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, this has become must-see TV with the Blue Jays at this point, correct?
Yeah, like it's unreal. And I mean, I think that one of the things that this last White Sox series showed as well is that I mean, the Jays do thrive on the long ball, but they were sure able to set the table a lot. Like Kiermaier hits it. So that one's a funny one, that triple that Kiermaier hit last night. I was watching with one of my sons and he hit the ball and we sort of were doing something. And he goes, "Dad, Kiermaier hit a double." And, like in a normal baseball game, the ball that Kevin Kiermaier hit is a double for anybody. And not only did he get a triple out of it, but he got a triple where there wasn't even a tag. Like, that's insane. Like, the speed. So I guess the stat they were saying afterwards is he's like the second fastest guy in the majors at 32 or 33, however old he is. And the other guy is like 19. That's run faster than he does. And it's crazy to think that these guys are doing stuff like this. And we're going to be privileged, I feel like, to watch this and see some really amazing stuff. I'm hoping that some of these guys really go on some significant home run tears. But I mean, you've got Chapman right now that's hitting 10 million, and again, just super awesome to watch.
Yeah, and it's funny that he's actually leading the team in triples. He's the only guy that's hit triples on the team. So it's like,
well,
wow.
Can I just say this to begin with too? We have guys that hit triples.
Guys with an S, not guy.
Yeah, exactly. Usually it's a once in a blue moon. It's like finding it's like trying to find $100 in the sidewalk in the city of Toronto.
Nope. There he goes again.
Yep.
Here he goes again on his own. Needs a new Wi-Fi or internet cable.
Yeah. Anyway, I was trying to say it's like finding a needle in a haystack trying to find ex-Blue Jays players that are going on. So
I got to sing a little White Snake, so I think we're all a little better off.
I can hear you when it's doing that.
Your internet bothering.
Yeah. I really don't get what's going on other than the fact the weather is spectacular here right now. Not.
I got to get a good joke or something ready for the next one you do it.
No, I'm just faking you this time. So I do want to make sure we talk about one specific person that I was excited to see at the major league level yesterday. And Jason, you hinted at this before the show. Nate Pearson is actually back at the major league level. And there was a lot to unpack with that inning he was in last night. Gets into a deep count with somebody, plunks a guy, and then finally turns it on.
Yeah.
And I believe it took him 20-something pitches to get out of that.
Did though, holy goodness. Like, we were watching, and my one son said to me, he's like, Dad, that guy's going 3 digits over and over again. Like, I mean, he's poking 100 in the eye over and over again. And it's just like, wow. And he finally looks like a baseball player. He walked out there with swag. And I mean, sure, you're going to be crapping your pants. It's your first time back up in the majors in a long time. Expectations have been, gigantic. And, in a not a huge situation. I mean, you're up by 5 or 6 and you want to just, throw heat down Main Street. Any one of us would be nervous. And I was glad to see, exactly like you said, get deep, plunk a guy, and then just start unloading bullets. And it was so nice to see. And it was nice to see, like, he could have done that thing where you get that monkey off my back. Like, I mean, there's nothing better. He had a big smile on his face. And like I said, he looks more mature. He seems to be acting more mature. Like, even when he's coming out of the pen and the fans were going nuts, he was really calm. And, you would expect the old Nate would have been like, like playing to the crowd as he's going. And it's not the new Nate. The new Nate seems to be all about beeswax. And I like the beeswax he's brewing up there.
Yeah. It's very interesting to see. Ken, what did you see from the what we got to see as a quick glimpse of Nate Pearson, who, mind you, was lights out in Buffalo. So, and even recorded his first professional save finally. So,
no, it's great to hear. And I was just looking at his stats, like, he's a tall dude, isn't he?
Yeah,
very tall dude. That's throwing 100. So it's that much closer when he lets go of it.
Yeah, and like you said, the maturity it's starting to come around, which is really good. Because like you said, he seemed to be focused on doing what he has to do and not even looking at the scoreboard anymore. It seemed like he was really trying to improve his performance, regardless, thinking that in his mind, it's like a 1-run game as opposed to 5-6 run lead or something like that for it.
Mm-hmm. If this is what we're going to get from Nate Pearson, I'm not saying throw him into leverage because I think that could break him. But right now, having another guy that could come out and just throw freaking heat. Let's say you needed that last out to get out of an inning, and it was you needed a strikeout situation. You now have another guy to be able to throw into that equation. Because I can't say some of the guys that used to do that I'm super high on at the moment. And I'm sorry to be calling out Jimmy Garcia here in the who's down, in my opinion, ballpark, but that's where I'm at with it.
Pearson also showed, management and the coach that he can be a he can be a 3-bat pitcher, or he can go more. Like I was actually a little surprised they didn't put him out again. He had thrown well. I know they wanted to just get the nerves off and get him going, but it's, for me, it's impressive to see him, and I'm happy to see him, and I think he's only going to grow this year, and I feel like it's going to be positive. He's not going to be perfect. He's still very young, and he's really strong, and he's got to make sure that he doesn't overthrow to get his injuries that has caused himself his whole way through his career. But I feel like he's being coached well right now, and I feel like he's being mentored well, and sky's the limit right now, I think, for him.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see what the next opportunity for him comes, because I really do think it's going to be a little bit more than a clean inning. I think they're going to throw him a little to the fire, not completely, just enough to test the waters, because he was in hot water in Buffalo, but that's AAA versus Major League. They need to feel. I was just saying he needs to find out where he can be really fitting into this bullpen, and they're going to test him to that point.
Yeah. I mean, I think the experiment is done for him, even trying to be a starter, which I think is the right thing. Let's try and get some longevity out of this kid and get him pitching, whether he goes to a closer or a step up to the closer or middle reliever. Let's get him in there, and let's get him throwing darts.
Mm-hmm. So on that note, I'm going to try one thing real quick and duck out and come back, but I'm going to leave you with the who's down situations. I think it's pissing me off, and I know I'm getting sick of being made fun of. So, but to that point, guys, like I said, I called out Jimmy Garcia as far as the last week has not been good to Jimmy Garcia. Is there anybody else on your radar that you're worried?
Kenny, you want to take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, to me, like I said, we all said before, Biggio seems to be almost playing himself out of a job almost, right? Like, he just can't seem to find the ball. I'm not too sure why, but he just doesn't seem to be pulling it out right now. And Espinal, like, defensive wise, I think he's fine, but don't get me wrong, today's game for Espinal was probably one of his better games, right? He's 3 for 4, which was great. Now, where was that? Hopefully he can continue that, but just looking at it, and when I'm watching these games, and I'm like, I always want every Jays play to be at least 250. I know it's impossible, but I want them to be performing at that level so that you couldn't find a chink in our armor, right? They're just, but unfortunately they haven't been pulling it off, and a little bit worried about Varsho a little bit. I mean, what his saving grace too, aside from him being awesome defensively, he can actually find a way. He's a really good eye that he can get on base.
Yeah.
This season, which is unbelievable. But I'm hoping to see his bat come alive a little bit more. That's what I'm hoping for. So,
yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you. What's your thought on the presence of Whit Merrifield right now being as good as he is? Do you think that pressure that Biggio, obviously Espinal, they're both feeling? I mean, Merrifield can play second base, and he's a good second baseman, and that answers a lot of questions and gives the Jays one good selling tool, right? Because if you decide between Espinal and Biggio, that's one guy that you can trade to another major league team, and you're either going to get a good prospect, you're going to get a good pick, or a very serviceable player back for any of those three. But I think right now, they're allowing Whit to play as much as they are, and they're hoping one of those two will play themselves up into the secondary position, and then the third one can be traded. What do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Merrifield's making it a lot harder because, like you said, he's a utility guy. He can play almost anything. So
yeah,
unless they can really step up their game, they're always going to keep going to Merrifield. I mean, that's the way it's going to be.
And for my down, I think that, and unfortunately, I'm sorry, but I think it's got to be Kirky. He has been a real disappointment this year. He hasn't played well defensively. I don't feel like he's called great games that he's been catching in. He hasn't hit the ball at all. He has, to his credit, he has walked a fair amount. I mean, and probably more than he would normally walk. And I mean, if we're going to play money ball, at least he's getting on. And I feel like, if I might be wrong, but I feel like he does score quite a bit when he does walk as well. But
yes. He trucked around the other night.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm kind of down on him. But I'm with you. For me, it's a tie between Espinal and Biggio as being sort of the sort of deadwood right now. And Springer will bounce back. Varsho will definitely bounce back. But I'm excited to see the possibility of them getting a moving piece for either Biggio or Espinal. And I don't know that they're going to wait that long for something like that. Like, I think that the way teams are going right now, if you look at, if you look at the standings and some of the teams that are really struggling, that maybe people didn't think were going to struggle as much as they are, i.e. the Seattle Mariners. I mean, you may be able to, they just had Ricky Ray's down now. I think he's got season-ending surgery, so he can take his tight pants and keep them at home. But I mean, if you look at a team like the Mariners, they're loaded with young talent. I mean, they've got young talent coming out the yin-yang, pitching, catching, all through the field. So, I mean, to possibly take a good bat like Espinal and ship them there and sort of get somebody decent back. And again, the Mariners have been bad for a long time, so they've got a lot of good players in the system as well. So, I mean, who knows?
Send Mitch White with them.
Yep.
Because they're going to need a pitcher. And you are 100% correct. I knew that Robbie Ray got hurt, but I didn't see what it really was. He has to have flexor tendon surgery, so he is gone for the season.
Yeah.
Not a good time. All the best wishes for Robbie Ray, because I do think that, he was obviously a huge part of Blue Jays' recent history, and I hope a great bounce back to him too. But you are correct. The Mariners are going to be looking. And what do they look to fill? And honestly, I'm very surprised that in the midst of what's been going on with the Dodgers, they haven't called. They're looking for middle infield. There's a lot of teams looking for that extra middle infielder right now. Yeah. And the Blue Jays have a little bit of an embarrassment of riches for between Espinal and Biggio. There's somebody there with the right amount of playing time that could really still click. We saw it with Espinal last year, and we know Biggio had success at the minor league level to the MVP level. Yeah. Does he finally run with something if somebody gives him a true shot? And honestly, the thing that pisses me off, I think one of them eventually is going to end up being like the next awesome Tampa Bay Ray, because that's what always happens.
Yeah.
So to that point, even the Miami Marlins, with how they've shifted their stuff around, could really use an infielder and are still on that. Do we compete or not? That's a nice safe bet for them to be able to do that kind of thing and give us something for the bullpen, or like you said, that prospect that we can backfill with a little bit.
Yeah. Very interesting.
My internet lasted for more than 30 seconds there. See that?
Yeah. I'm all excited about that, Craig.
And just to say, I like the minor leagues. Still repping a Lansing Lugnuts shirt that's no longer in the Blue Jays stuff. I'm wearing this in honor of Nate Pearson this evening, and love the Lugnuts organization. It was a frequent visitor. So
repping the Canadians.
Great place to go see a ball game. There it is. So we've done who's up and who's down. So now let's talk what's next, fellas. We have the Seattle Mariners. Funny enough, we were just talking about them. Segue points to Jason. They're coming to town, and they're going to come to town to I think it was George Springer replica jersey night is Friday night. Yep. And then it's Sesame Street Day. It's like every day you can think of for the kids this weekend. Jerseys, Sesame Street, and Junior Jays Day is opening, the first Junior Jays Day this weekend. So it's going to be a fun weekend in Toronto. And then we go to Fenway Park to see the Red Sox for the first time this season after that. So that's the next 6-7 days of actual games of Blue Jays baseball. You mentioned the Seattle Mariners, Jason, are going down a little bit in the midst of this, or haven't really found that identity of what they thought this new team was going to be at this point. I'm feeling like they're a little bit better than the White Sox, but I don't want to say this is a sure thing sweep at the same time.
No, and the Jays are going to meet up against two, I use the term buzzsaw again. The Jays are going to meet up with two pitchers in Castillo and Gonzalez that are both 2-0. They're both very good pitchers. Gosman gets
very contrasting too.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what a team like Seattle, is going to, and a team like Baltimore, and these teams that don't fit the normal molds, the same as the Rays. They just don't fit the normal mold of here's your 5 starting pitchers, and they're all sort of similar. They're all 3-pitch or 4-pitch guys. Blah blah blah. This is a mixed bag, and I mean, I could see the Jays potentially losing 2 of these games. But I will tell you this, I feel like every single one of these games against the Mariners is going to be tight. There's not going to be an 8 Cobb or a 9-0 or a 6-1. I mean, these are going to be 3-2, grind them out. Whoever gets the last hit might win the game. That kind of a thing. And, to what you were saying, Kenny, I think this is a series where a guy like Varsho might really be able to come out of his shell here. They're going to need guys to bunt. They're going to need guys to double steal. They're going to need, they're going to need a lot of things from a guy like Varsho. I feel like it would be a good time for him to sort of explode. This pitching, it goes up well against him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's easy to look at the records of the Mariners and the Red Sox and think, oh, they're barely at 500. They're like here and there, but you can't sleep on it, right? We can't not take our foot off the pedal right now. We had a great series, like you said, 2-3 from the Yankees. We swept the White Sox. We got to keep that momentum to at least, if not win every game, at least try to win every series. So whether it's 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, whatever, just keep that level of momentum going on, because all it could take is just one bad game or a couple of bad games, and then we're going to be like digging ourselves out of it. So
what do they say? Hope. One bad week, no matter what week it is in the Major League Baseball season, and you can go from 0 to hero or hero to 0 pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at the Yankees.
Yeah.
It's the so, but to that point, I think the Blue Jays' momentum and confidence level in that dugout is at an all-time high right now, and there's still plenty of things that can go right. We were talking the bullpen can go better, and I think that's
yeah,
there it is. So there's still plenty of things that can go right, and there's plenty of things that can go wrong, like you said. But I think the Blue Jays are on the right side of this momentum right now, and I really honestly wonder how much of that momentum spells bad things for the Seattle Mariners coming to town this week.
My hope is that it spells a lot. Like, I mean, this could be, again, like we're going to probably say this 100 times during the year, but this could be a really pivotal series for 3 or 4 guys. Like, this is a series where Springer could get back on it. He always plays well against the Mariners. I don't know why. I don't know why he dislikes the Mariners so much, but he seems to. And then,
or why he likes the Mariners so much.
He I guess he likes them. He doesn't dislike them. He likes them.
Yeah, loves to mash them.
Yeah, and like I said, a guy like Varsho. I mean, maybe you can get a guy like Kirk off the schneid. It seems to be like Vladdy and Bo and Kiermaier and all these guys seem to be able to bleed onto the other guys when they are having success. You can see Springer's coming back a bit right now, but I mean, they need this is crucial to get a guy like Varsho going. They need to play the hell out of him. He needs to be in every situation they can put him in. Like I said, this is one where you could really put a stamp on the first part of the season by, winning a series against the Yankees, beating up on a team that put us out last year. I mean, let's not forget that. Let's not forget, that there is no rivalry. There is no rivalry against the Mariners. Bullshit. I mean, there is a rivalry against the Mariners. There are new Rangers because the Rangers have been awful for so long. They haven't been effectively,
Well, that and the whole invading Seattle thing has nothing to do with it, I'm sure.
I will say this, like I've been down for those games, and the Mariners have been so bad for so long that it was almost all Jays fans. And I am planning to go to one of the games, maybe two. It will depend obviously on how much free time I have, which is usually zero, but we are going to make a point of going down to one of those games. And I do like that rivalry. It's not Yankees Red Sox. Like if I'm sitting in a section with all Mariners fans wearing a Blue Jays jersey, nobody says anything. No one does anything. I mean, it's not the Seahawks. They're a different, that's a different animal.
It's not sitting there in Yankee Stadium like so many Brave fans just did.
Right. It's not, and it's one of those things where it's almost a rivalry that's been bred in respect, because the Mariners fans actually respect the fact that we come all the way down there and watch those games and put in the time for a team that we don't ever get to see unless they come to Seattle, right? Like, I mean, a Mariners fan for fairly inexpensive can fly to a lot of places in the U.S. and watch a game, right? I mean, they've got University of Washington baseball. You just go down to Oregon, you can watch baseball. You watch baseball. We can't. I mean, we have the Vancouver Canadians. We can drive down and watch the Mariners, or it's little kids baseball. And that's really legitimately it. So I feel like we have an earned respect from those Mariners fans when we do show up and there's all the BC plates in the parking lot, and they know where we've come from. They know that those Jays fans haven't flown from Toronto. We all drove down from Vancouver. And so it's the one acceptable time to cheer for a team from Toronto when you live on the West Coast. So it's good times for everybody.
Exactly. So then the rest of that whole thing is the only fortunate catch is Seattle is 6 for their last 10 in wins. So they're on a little bit of a streak too, regardless of their 500 record. And then we get to the Red Sox are next. Hopefully we get to beat up on them after the fact. So
they're Jekyll and Hyde right now. The Red Sox are very Jekyll and Hyde right now. They'll go out and lay a whooping on somebody good, and then the next 2 games they just roll over like this, like he scratched my belly, like it's not good. And they're a better team than they're showing. If they could put it all together, they could really rattle the AL East around. I think that the Orioles are kind of, I don't know if I trust the Orioles to stay where they are. They're a good baseball team, but they're paper thin right now. Like 1 or 2 injuries, and they are going to be in massive trouble. Whereas
one of my friends, go ahead, finish that off.
I just feel like the Jays have the most depth of that whole group. As to if somebody gets hurt, somebody can come in. I feel comfortable with most of the positions that we're looking at. And, some of them could be really fun. Like you get a guy that maybe Bichette goes down and we get to bring up, we have to bring up the linebacker from Buffalo and see what he can do at the major league level. Imagine that. Imagine him and Varsho. You could have you're starting O-line for the Toronto Argonauts just with those two.
They're built like tanks. Yeah.
I know. It's unreal.
And to that point, you probably would actually get a nice little slide in that, move Barger over to third and let Chappie play short.
Yeah.
Because that was that's his actual natural position. Everybody forgets that. So,
and let's not forget, before we go on, I have to say something about the series that we just had. Vladdy Guerrero Jr. is showing that he is possibly one of the best defensive first basemen in the game right now, and he deserves the credit, all the credit that he's getting, because that scoop that he made on that throw from Chapman, they didn't have a miles per hour on that throw, but that thing was cooking. That was an O'Neill Cruz throw across, and Vladdy picked that thing up, and they're like, "We're gonna oh no, we're not gonna challenge." I mean, come on, like he's not even close. 6 inches from hitting the bag. And the recognition for Vladdy on that play, a couple of plays earlier, where the ball was hit into the gap between him and the second baseman, and he just stops and takes himself back, and they get a nice easy out. Merrifield's got that covered, where last year Vladdy makes a dive for that and then tries to get the out either himself or to throw into the pitcher, and we all know that that's not your best route. It's to just relax, and that's what he is. He's relaxed right now. So I wanted to get that.
It's scary to think he won a Gold Glove last year and he's getting better.
Oh, I know. Much better.
Right? He's a naturally trained third baseman who just now moved to first, wins a Gold Glove, performing not just offensively but defensively. Like, oh my God, could it be a second Gold Glove for Vlad?
It makes me think of. I just watched Moneyball the other night, and when they're in Hatterberg's living room, and he's like, "We'll teach you how to play first." And he's like, "It's not that hard, is it, Wash?" He's like, "It's incredibly hard."
It's incredibly hard.
He doesn't even react. He's just like, "Oh, so good."
He barely blinks. He's sitting there like that. And not to mention, perfectly nailed Ron Washington in that whole equation.
Unbelievable.
I want to mention something about the Red Sox there. You mentioned the Jekyll and the Hyde piece there for a minute. This team, that Red Sox team, is slightly scaring me to the fact that they feel like the early 90s Phillies to me.
A little bit.
And it's kind of like almost too close to home because we had to play them in the World Series, and I don't want to see them. I don't want the Red Sox in my way, but there's too many things there that are just making me feel that same vibe again. And it's like, oh God, they're going to be, putting fake mustaches and stuff on one of their pitchers like they did, and all these weird things. And
it's a 4-gamer too, right? Like it's a 4-gamer.
It's a 4-gamer in Fenway.
That's a long time to be playing against one team, as it were, and being in a city. You feel like I almost live there. But I will say this: if there's a stadium that benefits the Blue Jays more than Fenway, I don't know of one. I mean, Danny Jansen's home run alley is right over the monster. Same with Vladdy. Springer hits better there. Like, I mean,
Varshav's got a porch and left now. So Brandon Belt also on it. It's not to mention Double K doubles up the middle and triples and maybe inside the Parkers like Ramil Tapia last year, who was funny enough a Red Sox now. Just saying. So it'll be an interesting, but that's the beginning of a long road trip too.
Okay. We're just dancing along, waiting for Craig to come back.
We go through Pittsburgh on the end of that road trip too. So that's the beginning of a long road trip.
Huge, massive. And I mean, the one benefit they have is they started the season on a big long road trip, and they managed to fight their way through that and still get a bunch of wins and still come out ahead of ahead of 500. And I know that we're biased, but I really don't know if I've ever gone into a season where after watching the first, what are we at, 20, 22 games, 25 games, somewhere around there.
Something like that.
Just every time I turn on the TV to watch, I'm never like, oh, geez, I wonder what the score is. Like, it's like, I wonder how much they're up. Or, I wonder who's hit a home run. It's a totally different way. And it's funny because the NHL playoffs are on right now. And I'm a massive hockey guy. Like, I mean, hockey is probably, in my life, the most affecting thing. And I could care less about the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. Not just because the Canucks aren't in it, but because I feel like all of the storylines will be dead after the first round. Every single one of them. There will be nothing more interesting. It'll be like, who gives a crap? And it's funny because even fans, I know guys that are diehard Oiler fans, well, not the Leafs fans. They're going home to watch the games and stuff. But like, I was with an Oiler fan last night while the game was, we were watching our sons at a football practice. And he's like, I'm like, you're not at home watching the game? He's like, And I'm like, dude, you have a jersey hanging outside of your house.
You're wearing a jersey right now.
Like, whatever. And so I've like the passion that I'm feeling, and Kenny, you could probably speak to this a bit. Like, even just to listen to the games, the crowd is so loud at the Jays games right now, and it's an intensity that if they can carry that through, then Rogers becomes a scary place to play all year long. And I mean, if you can take home games just based on the fact that people are intimidated coming in there, I mean, that's so awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. The crowds are just phenomenal. I mean, there's nothing about anything that went against the Jays. It was a loud ruckus of boos. And I don't know how many times I yelled boo earns during any time thing that happened to the Jays.
Boo earns.
That's my thing now. Like, say that now, so they know what that is.
Yeah.
So, anyways, anything you guys want to add before we finish this thing up with picks to click and the typical ending?
Happy with Brandon Belt. I want to get that out too.
There's that. I'm trending in the right direction.
Yeah, he needs change socks. His socks are awful, but Brandon Belt, I'm starting to like more and more.
There it is. So last week I forgot to put it up to a vote, so I'm going to let Ken do our tiebreaker for between you and I for Bo Bichette and Chapman the week prior. Because I'm sorry to say, Ken, KK didn't get you there.
No, okay. I'm gonna go for. I already had my pick already, right?
No, you're helping me decide a tiebreaker for last week's show. So I think 2 weeks ago, was Chapman hotter or was Bo Bichette hotter? It's about a 50-50. Jason, you will notice that I didn't tell him who had who.
Right. That's the key. He should know because he should have listened. He should have listened to the podcast, and he should know.
To that point, I'm just glad he's going to lose one of these weeks. He won the first 2 weeks.
I know.
Well, I think I'll have to give it to Bat Chapman. That's what I'm going to go
There
with.
it is. So that actually puts me on the board. Yay! So I got one win. So last week, I had George Springer. That worked out really well.
Oh, now we're in suspense because I can't remember who I picked.
Oh yeah, that's true. I know with Kiermaier, and that didn't go well. So
I think I picked.
And then you had Kirk, and then we carried over the guest spot for our show because Leslie Nope was still.
Well, that's four. We might as well just have tied an anchor to all 4 picks. Holy.
Maybe that's the reason we have. Maybe we should just make sure we keep away from the people that are playing really well right now and not jinx anything.
Exactly.
I do want to say
I'm taking Ernie Witt.
Yeah, Ernie Witt.
No, you got to go more obscure and do like Frank Menachino in this level, or one of the Mike McCoy, who was always on the bus between Las Vegas and Toronto. To that point, out of those 4 picks, I would say I don't want to give Ken another win, but I would think that Kevin Kiermaier played the best defense out of all those guys and sprinkled in enough offense.
Ken gets it again. Yeah, I'm going to finish that, Ken. You get it again. Those other picks were awful.
Yeah, so Ken, you're up to 3-1 to nothing on the scoreboard.
Right now, right? So I got
my little. Is that a smoking skull belt?
Oh, it's a smoking skull belt. There it is.
Kenny 316 says, "I'm going to kick your ass."
I think he did, just saying. He is blowing us out so far at this point. I'm kind of a little upset that I showed you this game now.
Well, it's a long season.
Correct.
It's a long season, so this belt's my waist for so long, right? So eventually I'm going to start missing things.
Yeah, there's 52 weeks in a year, and half of them are baseball, so I think we're doing okay.
Yeah. Who's up first?
So to that point, Ken is actually the victor and the first to go here. So you're up, Ken. Who do you outside of Dalton Varsho?
I think I remember in the early part of the episode I was picking for the pick of the week was going to be Kikuchi, so that's going to be my pick.
Yeah. I'm sorry, it did cut out that time. Who did you say?
He's going Kikuchi.
Going for Kikuchi.
That's right. You already said that.
He's got a fever, and the only cure is more Kikuchi.
I think that's a good way of saying it right now for Blue Jays fans in general. All of a sudden, it's been awesome. Yeah. So on that point, Jason, then you go next.
Oh, I got to go with my boy Jano. Jeez Louise. I mean, the guy
put him on the spot earlier now, right?
So you got to go put it. Kerosene right now. I'm riding his coattails.
All right, Craig, who you got?
Who's pitching tomorrow? So I'm going to ride Alek Manoah. He might be able to sneak in. He's going to technically get 2 starts this week too. So that would be, I'm going to peek up on the fact that, like you and your Kikuchi pick.
I'm going to imagine he's just saying so many wise words right now.
So many wise words. I was saying Manoa, the fact that, I'm going to get 2 starts out of him, kind of like how Ken Steele and Kikuchi's start today and carrying it over. So because normally the reason I count the Wednesdays, we would be doing this show live during the game. Yeah. So this being the weird getaway day for the White Sox, gives you that opportunity. So to that point, I'm going with Alek Manoah for the same reasons. He'll be the Friday starter and then the Wednesday or the Tuesday right before we go on. So anything else you gentlemen want to add before we do our normal sign off?
Nada.
Okay.
We're good.
Awesome. So let's hope I don't get cut out while I'm trying to do an outro here. So, Toronto Blue Jays fans, thank you very much for joining us on another lovely evening of Jaybird Watching. Make sure you listen to us wherever you get your podcasting pleasures from, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, so on and so forth. I'm trying to do a quick rant here, couldn't tell. To that point, also make sure you join us live every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. And we'll just have a good fun talk as your bar room chat for Toronto Blue Jays baseball. And we are the official podcast of jaysjournal.com, part of Fansided. And as that goes, gentlemen, 1, 2, 3. Woo! Let's go, Blue Jays.
Mostly Jansen.
Kelly Gruber. Thank you for listening to the Jaybird Watching Podcast. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, at BirdwatchingGC, and our YouTube channel. If you want to support the show and get extra content, please consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/birdwatchinggc. Go Jays, go.